Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today, it's a feature story edition of Farm Week. You'll meet a Nebraska hog farmer who's using swine waste to generate electricity for himself and his neighbors.
In southern gardening, sometimes we don't attempt to garden because we don't think we have enough space. See how you can get a lot from a small space.
You'll also meet two Mississippi dairy farm families who are capturing more value from their milk by bottling it and making other dairy products. It's not easy, but both are building their local customer base.
Never had in my mind ever to be a dairy farmer. I probably had beef cattle since I was 15 or 16. And all my life I'd hoped I could do that full time. And me and my wife were at Walmart one night buying groceries and saw some organic milk. And noticed it like it was selling pretty good. But what got me was it came from Colorado.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artist Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
Today it's an all-feature edition of our program.
Leighton, our first feature story is about two Mississippi dairy farm families who have gone back to the past to add value to their milk. While our nation's dairies continue to struggle, Billy Ray Brown of Oxford and Butch Smith of Poplarville are developing niche markets. They both profit through on-farm processing and by selling products locally. Their stories put a new spin on the idea of old-fashioned family farming. Farm Week's Amy Taylor first brought us this story last year.
Two Mississippi dairy farms are doing something many people said couldn't be done. In a tight economy, it's almost impossible to start a new business, particularly a dairy. But Billy Ray Brown of Oxford found a way to profit by thinking outside of the box. He explains what prompted him to sacrifice his full-time job building fences and start a dairy, even though he had never milked a cow before.
Never had in my mind ever to be a dairy farmer. I probably had beef cattle since I was 15 or 16. And all my life I'd hoped I could do that full time. And me and my wife were at Walmart one night buying groceries and saw some organic milk. And noticed it like it was selling pretty good. But what got me was it came from Colorado. When you know, the big thing now, maybe not organic or this or that, you can label it a lot of different ways, but anything local. We see at our farmers markets, local produce sells outstanding.
And that's how the idea for Brown Family Dairy was born. They began selling milk in 2009, starting with 4 Jersey cows. Billy Ray, his wife Paula, and their children, Molly, Sarah, and Harris, all take part in the dairy. Molly says she loves living on the farm.
We have so much animals, we get to check on them every day, feed them. It's great, I love it. Every day I come out there, they're right there around them. It's amazing. I help, I'll open the gate for them, and I'll count 1, 2, 3, and I'll say the names. And then I'll give them paper towels and give them the dip that you put on there and you clean it.
As business grew, the Browns expanded to milking 12 cattle. One of the most unique qualities is the milk comes in glass bottles, giving a nod to the old days when it was delivered door to door. Brown explains how stores and customers can purchase milk.
If they're a first-time customer, they'll pay a deposit on that bottle along with the price of the milk, and they'll take that home. When they finish that, they bring the bottle back either to me at a farmer's market or to a store, hand them the bottle and get another one. They just basically buy their bottle the first time, and they bring it back every time and just exchange it. When we take milk to the store, we unload a load of milk and we load a thing of bottles.
Brown says he believes the bottles even give the milk a special taste. While Brown Family Dairy enjoys success in North Mississippi, a farm on the south end of the state has found its niche as well. In early 2010, Butch Smith and his family opened Country Girls Creamery near Poplarville. Smith talks about his dairy experience.
My dad's been a dairy farmer for about just a little over 30 years. Now, I never wanted to be a part of the farm, so I went to school. I became a nurse, but my girls began showing the cattle probably 4 years ago, so we were on the farm more, got involved in it more.
Smith says he and his family wanted to maximize the selection of value-added products. In addition to shipping 3/4 of the milk to a bulk dairy plant and delivering milk to stores and farmers markets, the Smiths sell other products. These include chocolate milk, sweet and savory cheeses, farmhouse cheddar, and plain and blueberry yogurt. In addition to buying products from the on-farm store, visitors can also tour the facility.
We do tours on the farm. I think our first tour was a smaller private school. We tell them, you know, where their milk comes from, what products can be made from milk, about dairy animals and the difference in dairy animals and beef animals, you know, what it takes to feed the animal to produce, you know, X pounds of milk. Then we show them what we have to offer in our storefront, what all we make here. We show them how we bottle the milk, how we make the cheese, and we allow them to see the cows being milked.
Smith says he and his father, Connell, take on the task of milking the 80-cow herd twice a day. The dairy was named Country Girls Creamery after his 3 daughters, Shannon, Lauren, and Gracie, and wife Dawn, who also help on the farm. Dr. Lamar Adams, Mississippi State University Extension Dairy Specialist, explains that each farm has its own market because of location and size.
Location is the key and what market demographic you're shooting for. Again, the Brown facility up in Oxford is very unique in that it is a small startup operation. Mr. Brown does use the old-timey glass bottles. The Country Girls Creamery that the Smith family operates down around Poplarville, there again, it was an established herd milking 80 to 100 cows, and they have more milk that they can meet the bottled or fluid milk demands, as well as having milk to make into cheese, and they're also selling butter products.
Though on-farm processing has worked for the Brown and Smith families, many areas cannot support this type of market. It's important for those interested to do their homework first.
The first thing they need to do is to do a market analysis. The Mississippi State Extension Service, through the Animal and Dairy Science Department and Ag Economics Departments and others, can help do those type of assessments to be sure that the market is there.
MSU Extension can also help producers make sure they have the proper equipment according to Health Department standards.
These facilities are regulated by the Mississippi Department of Health, just as any food processing facility would be, so they have been trained on how to properly pasteurize these products. Pasteurization is a heat process that eliminates harmful microorganisms that may be present in the milk.
Both operations obtain their own pasteurizers, which heat the milk and hold it at 145 degrees for 30 minutes. Then the milk is cooled down to around 40 degrees before it's bottled. Milk is tested regularly by Mississippi Department of Health to ensure safety. And as for the cattle, both farms ensure excellent living conditions. The cows are mainly grass-fed and given free range in the pasture, and Smith feeds his calves in separate stalls to give them the right portions. Both producers testify their farms could not operate without the help of family and friends. Brown says he's proud to offer farm-fresh, safe products.
Anybody ought to show up at my farm anytime, unannounced, and see how my animals are treated, see how our facilities are operated, and that's what sells milk. In my opinion.
Personalizing the product is what Smith believes to be one of the best parts of running Country Girls Creamery.
It's not just making a bottle of milk. I mean, we raise the cows from calves. We bred our own cattle. The genetics that they have are all something that we put into it. The land, the grass we grow. You know, it doesn't seem so much like work when you have something that you can tell about and be proud of.
And sacrificing his small fencing business for farming taught Brown that you can find success against all odds.
A lot of folks told me there's not a way, you can't do it, but if you want it bad enough, there is a way to do it. That's always been our goal, is to make a living farming and be at home. And it's worth it. We sacrificed a lot, but I'm happier now than I've ever been.
Dairy Tales of Brown Family Dairy and Country Girls Creamery are the symbol of achieving success through old principles, proving the classic family farm is still very much alive. I'm Amy Taylor reporting.
If you're interested in watching this story again on the Brown Family Dairy and the Country Girls Creamery, You can go to our website, farmweek.msucares.com. We'll have their telephone numbers listed. We'll also have a link to the Country Girls Creamery Facebook page. They're also doing some social networking. That's farmweek.msucares.com. Layton, I want to mention that the Browns, they are up towards Oxford. They've added some organic meat to their product line now, and they have increased the number of cows that they're running. And then down in Poplarville at Country Girls Creamery, they have a brie cheese now that they're offering, and they're processing about 1,500 gallons of milk for fluid, you know, regular liquid milk consumption. So once again,
glad to hear they're both
glad
expanding.
to hear that they're both expanding, and of course in this kind of time. But it is that sort of deal. You have to have some sort of urban center, though, to be able to feed that. If you're really out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have that kind of market, then you might not ought to look into this. But it is good. I mean, they're adding value. That's the key to this, is adding value to their product.
All right, thanks, Artis. Well, time now for our trivia quiz today on Farm Week, and this week it's about the heat that we experience here in Mississippi. Now, Farm Week is produced at Mississippi State University in Starkville. Our question, what is the average high temperature this time of year for northeast Mississippi? Is the answer 93 degrees, 95 degrees, 96 degrees, or 97 degrees? I'll have the answer after today's Southern Gardening segment.
Well, many people ask how large a garden has to be to produce an abundant source of vegetables. In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman takes us to a small kitchen garden that produces big results.
Today I'm in the backyard vegetable garden of Jan and Jean Harlow. Their garden is the perfect example of the benefits that a small vegetable garden can provide. Growing vegetables is becoming more and more popular as gardeners discover they don't need a large garden for a bountiful harvest. The herb garden is located at the entrance. Decorative plant tags identify and add a touch of rustic elegance. Imagine being able to simply snip off fresh French tarragon for that dinner recipe. These flowering chives are flavorful as well as ornamental. The raised planting beds are separated using grass walkways to provide stability and keep their shoes clean on wet days. The beds are framed using boards or this attractive stone set on edge. The beds are about 4 feet wide and easy to reach in from both sides. Pine straw mulch is used to maintain precious soil moisture. Ripening heirloom tomatoes each have their own stake to make tying off easier and keep the garden in order. Look at this bamboo and string trellis eagerly awaiting the beans to begin their climb. The entire garden is productive, even the compost bin. Jean lets these volunteer pumpkin squash enjoy growing in the compost. And to personalize the garden, Jan and Jean have added sculptures and birdhouses. And advice for all gardeners is not to neglect garden chores. Pulling weeds when they are small takes care of problems later in the season. There's no doubt that nothing beats that big taste from fresh vegetables grown in a small garden. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says you can enjoy that big taste and you can get it from a small garden.
Well, it's time for the answer to that trivia quiz on Farm Week. Again, the question was about high temperatures that we experience this time of year in northeast Mississippi. Do you think you know? Well, the average high temperature in late July in Starkville, Mississippi is 93 degrees, according to AccuWeather.com. That's the average high from July 20th to August 6th. The average low for the same time period is 71 degrees.
We're going to pause now for a break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll have the calendar and one more feature story for you. You're going to meet a hog farmer who turns his animals' waste into electricity for him and his neighbors.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed in farm tractor accidents. Transporting and lifting objects with a front loader requires extreme caution. Unsecured objects can roll or slide down the loader arms and injure the driver. To help prevent injuries, tractors should be equipped with a falling objects protection system. Always secure loads or use a bale spear or straps before lifting objects. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Before we get back to the last story, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. Mississippi State University's McNeil unit will hold its annual Muscadine Field Day on Saturday, August 13th. The McNeil unit is located on Highway 11 just south of McNeil. McNeil is located between Poplarville and Picayune. The hours are 8:30 to 11:30 in the morning. There's no registration fee, and homeowners and those with commercial interests are invited. Almost all the muscadine varieties available to the public are grown at the unit. Sampling is encouraged. The 10th Annual Southern Producers Heifer Sale takes place Saturday, August 27th. The location is Southeast Mississippi Livestock Auction Barn, Highway 49 North, Hattiesburg. It's an excellent chance to pick up vaccinated, certified, bred replacement heifers. Sale starts at 1 p.m. Breed types include Brangus, Angus, Red Angus, Sim Angus, Black Baldy, Brayford, Brahma Cross, and Brahma. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this Farm Week snapshot.
Our last feature story today is about a hog farmer that has a vision of the future, one where hog waste is turned into fuel. One producer in Nebraska has found a way to generate his own electricity and enough for his neighbors. At the same time, he is reducing emissions of a key greenhouse gas. Harvest Public Media's Perry Stoner explains how the innovative operation converts waste into watts.
Danny Cluthy runs a family hog operation in rural Dodge, Nebraska. Step inside one of the barns and you'll see and hear it's like many hog operations in the state.
You know, my job is to get them little pigs fat and get them to market.
The little pigs weigh 12 pounds or so when they come to Cluthy's facility. 5 or 6 months later, he's cared for them enough they are ready to go to market, weighing 20 times more than when they arrived.
These hogs are treated better than humans. I mean, their diet is to a T for their age. Fresh water, fresh air. They sleep with a grin on their face.
With about 7,500 hogs typically on hand, a lot goes into fattening them up. That means there's a lot that comes out of them, too. It's manure, and that's where Cluthy's operation becomes unlike any other in the state. The waste of hogs and other farm animals create high levels of the greenhouse gas methane. Methane can last more than a decade in the atmosphere and is 20 times more powerful than carbon dioxide as a contributor to climate warming. But Cluthy is taking steps to make his farm an environmental game changer.
What I really call this thing is a manure processing system with the byproduct being electricity.
Hogs create an average of more than a gallon of manure each day. All told, Cluthy's hogs generate over 9,000 gallons, enough to fill a gas tanker every day of the year. Down the hill from the hog barns is a pit. An underground pipe system uses gravity so the manure flows downhill. Manure collected in a pit is common at hog operations, but what happens in this pit is not. This 14-foot deep airtight tank is called a methane digester. There are about 150 of them on farms in the United States, but Cluthy's is the only one in Nebraska.
The raw manure goes down to the digester where we've got bacteria, lots of bacteria. And what the bacteria does is actually breaks the manure down and it comes out liquid. Every day I feed about a quarter of a pit to the digester, and every day the hogs replace it. That is renewable.
The digester is heated to about 100 degrees. That's ideal for the bacteria to break down the manure and release methane gas, a process that takes about 3 weeks. The pit traps the methane in its oxygen-free environment. Cluthy then uses the methane as a fuel to run farm utilities.
The methane gas gets sucked up here to the 3306 cat engine that's running a generator. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I always say this cat engine just purrs on this methane.
The Caterpillar engine sits in its own small building. The Designed to use either methane or propane as fuel, the engine produces electricity and it's put on the electrical grid, completing the manure to electricity process. Cluthe started dreaming of this facility in 2003, but wasn't producing electricity until more than 2 years later, due mostly to the permitting process. Nebraska Public Power now buys the energy from Cluthe's family energy company. But generating electricity from hog manure isn't financially what it could be. Customer generators in Nebraska, like Cluthe, can produce up to 25 kilowatts. Above that amount, they are paid what's called avoided cost from the utility. In simple terms, he's paid the utility's wholesale cost of electricity. The 25 kilowatts allowed in Nebraska is among the lowest in the nation. In the end, the break-even point for Cluthe's system is at least 15 years.
We actually make enough electricity here to take care of about 45 to 50 homes a year. I would use about 20% of the production and sell 80%. For a byproduct, we actually got a lot of electricity here. Anybody in Cumming County that turns their lights on doesn't know the difference whether it's coming from Cooper Nuclear or Olean Energy.
They're creating greenhouse gases, actually creating a very potent greenhouse gas, so you don't want that to escape. And so it's really important to capture as much of that methane as you can.
For biological systems engineers like Rick Stoll and Crystal Powers, finding ways to utilize what might otherwise be waste is a scientific process that helps make agriculture more sustainable.
In each step of the process, from growing your forages and grains for your livestock to feeding the animal to within the manure, how do we capture as much energy in each step? And anaerobic digesters fit in there because we're figuring out how to get more energy out of that manure before it's ultimately used as fertilizer.
Livestock manure is used as fertilizer for crop agriculture. Methane-free manure is too, and Cluthe says it's odorless. Livestock waste odor is found offensive by some, and it is occasionally the grounds for lawsuits. Ryan McGee is with the USDA's Agricultural Research Service. In the lab, he's examining what happens to the manure in the different stages of Cluthe's process.
So these samples are from the pit, which are essentially green, raw manure, very little treatment. Then the next step is after it's been digested through the anaerobic digester, which is a basic flow of treatment at the Cluthe site.
We're asking them to look at solids content, the organic matter, how that's breaking down. That would tell us how well the digester is performing. And then we're also very interested in what's the likelihood of gases coming off that would cause odors. And the assumption is that the digester is going to break down those and reduce the likelihood of odorous gases and other undesired gases coming off.
Livestock production can have another serious negative environmental impact: water contamination.
85% of our population in Nebraska relies on groundwater for drinking water. If waste gets into water, it's likely to cause a problem. I mean, that's the whole purpose of our livestock permitting program, is to keep livestock waste out of the waters of the state, the groundwater, the streams, the rivers, and the lakes and the reservoirs.
Marty Link is Water Quality Associate Director with the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality. She says harm to drinking water isn't the only concern if livestock waste gets in the water.
When it runs off into a stream, it can cause the algae to get all excited, and it gets all this nutrients and it starts growing a lot. And so there's an algae bloom. The algae bloom takes up a lot of oxygen. Oxygen is all depleted then from the water, and the fish won't have the oxygen in order to breathe, and they may die. That's a worst case scenario. Accidents happen, but well-managed waste should not make it into the stream.
You know, now all of the effluent that goes down the lagoon is odorless. So really it's just kind of nice, pretty lake out there.
At Danny Cluthe's hog operation, he can still use the manure waste as fertilizer after capturing the methane to be a fuel source. He likes that the digester helps him be a good neighbor.
We've got a track record, and now we've got something that, you know, other producers can come and look at and say, wow.
It's a costly endeavor Cluthe could only make happen with grants that totaled hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's one of the barriers in front of more livestock producers wanting to do what Cluthe has, but he's not done. Another grant will provide about 1/4 of the funding to install a scrubber that will remove methane impurities and leave propane. He estimates the additional use of the manure byproduct could eliminate his annual energy costs of $30,000.
And I'm excited about the fact that we'll be able to heat our barns, dry our corn, whatever we use propane for now, we're going to be using methane. And will this solve our oil crisis? Probably not, but it's a piece of the puzzle.
For Market to Market, I'm Perry Stoner.
If you're interested in watching this story again, go to our Farm Week website, farmweek.msucares.com. We'll also have links to the Market to Market website, and you can see the story as well as read the script. Again, that's farmweek.msucares.com.
Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, native trees.
Down in Lamar County, Mississippi, soil and water conservation officials are working to help school children learn conservation principles. Teachers report having a class tree gives the children a sense of ownership that a picture in a book cannot provide.
In Southern Gardening, how to give your yard a shady charm. There are plants that thrive in the shade. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.